Hi folks, here it is, November, Sunday morning, and we have as our guest Frank Smith. And Frank has just come from church.
Yeah, that's correct.
He thought he better reconnect with his maker because we don't know what day we're going to be going to meet our maker, so we had to reconnect, don't we, Frank?
I try to anyway.
Now, Frank, before we reconnect, I want you to tell us some of the old stories. You know, you've told us some really, really funny stories about Fairview and your early days in this area, and we really want to hear some of those again. But before we start, would you like a cup of coffee?
Pardon?
Would you like a cup of coffee?
No, I'm okay back for a while.
Okay, well, when you're ready for coffee, just let me know and I'll pour it.
Good, I will.
Okay.
Well, it would have been about 1939, I think. Well, we lived in Oliver, right on the bottom road. And then my wife thought we'd like to live out in the country. So we ran across Roy McKay.
Yes.
He had a place at Fairview, which was the old Rimple place. At that time was a big log barn and a corral, and the old house was still there. And beside the bedroom was an old, it must have been 50, 60-year-old apricot tree.
Wow.
And every summer was apricots on. In fact, I drove up there a year ago, and I still see the old tree there, and I think it still had fruit on.
Is that right?
And I can remember quite well, we found all horseshoes and snow and plow shears, I guess that Billy Dalrymple had used years back.
Well, Frank, was there anything else in Fairview at that time? Was there any commerce going on? Was there any?
Well, there was the old jailhouse there.
Yeah.
Patton was there. Charlie Jones and Mrs. Jones, they lived right adjacent to where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when my oldest daughter was born, she was born right in the house at Fairview, the 11th of June, 1940. I wasn't there. In fact, no one was there, only an old gentleman stayed in the cabin. And my wife got a hold of him, and she went over and had Mrs. Jones come over and help with the baby. And the child was real healthy, no troubles whatsoever.
Well, wasn't that lucky that Mrs. Jones was around?
That sure was.
And where were you, Frank?
Well, I was hauling wheat out of Kamloops, Knutsford country, for Russie Foster. Russie was running the Overwhaley in Princeton. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got into Princeton, the store was closed. So I didn't want to bother the people then. I got a room in one of the hotels and stayed over, put my wheat up in the morning, and then when I got back to Fairview, we had an extra in the family.
An extra one in the family. A healthy, bouncing baby girl.
Yeah, it was definitely.
What is her name now?
Pardon?
What is her name?
Her name is, she named after her grandmother, Patricia Jenny. Her grandmother's name was Jane Ann Ritchie. She homesteaded out of Calgary in a little town called Blackie, Alberta. That is real close to High River.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and after the baby was born, how long did you stay in Fairview?
Well, we stayed now after the baby was born. My wife's sister came down, and she stayed a couple of weeks. So I said, "Well, I'm going to Vancouver. Would you like to come along to Vancouver?" So my wife and the baby and my wife's sister Evelyn, we all went to Vancouver for a little vacation. That would have been in late June, early July, 1940.
Wow. Hey, you've got a really good memory, Frank. And
Yeah, my memory's not failing me too bad.
no, if our bodies would keep up with our minds, we would go on forever, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Or do we want to? Well, it's kind of fun. Yeah. Now tell us, Frank, one of the stories that I love that you told us before is the one about taking the apples, I guess you'd call that bootlegging apples to Vancouver in the hearse. Tell us.
Oh, I've had lots of apples in my lifetime. At one time they more or less illegitimate. They didn't like you to take any apples out of the valley. So I was in the hide business. And what I used to do, I'd put the hides on, then I'd put a layer of sheepskins in the canvas. Then I would put apples on top, more sheepskins on top of the apple. I always put